I know the week before we opened Bluestem, Ross called me and just said, what am I doing? What have I done to our family? I've forced this building. I've spent 3.5 years and probably no one's even going to come.
It started out as a labor of love and then ended up as just a labor.
I want everyone to be able to buy something from the store. I want everyone to be welcome in our store. And so trying to be a good business person and also be a good community person and just be a good person.
My dad, his brother, his sister, they were having to continuously put money into the farm, to keep it going. It was one of the reasons why we developed, Bluestem.
Artists are different and they have, and the beauty that they create. And so somebody who's creating beauty is in a different realm than I am. They see the world differently. They don't see the world like I see it.
I guess, what are the challenges y'all are currently facing?
Exhaustion.
If I'm giving people a basic overview, Ross, like you're an architect, you've been a woodworker for years, and you work both in creative, but I'm going to call it creative function. Mm-hmm. is basically what you do. Yep. And Patricia, you've kind of gone like this whole journey from homeschool mom, housemaker, then you went into waitressing and then kind of did this journey till now you're kind of running Bluestem. How did y'all come up with the idea for Bluestem originally?
Originally, the Bluestem was going to be a furniture store. And so we started out with me wanting to build custom furniture and do that full time. And so we got into the design portion of the building, and that was basically how it started. It started as a furniture store and then morphed into what it is today, because we were afraid that Patricia was going to get bored and sitting inside, a furniture store waiting for someone to come in.
Which she does often. You see her just kind of dazing off. And,
yes.
The next thing you know, she's picking daisies all the way throughout. She's petting the pigs. You just never know where she ends up.
That's true. And so I was concerned that she was going to be bored. And so she asked if we could, design a commercial kitchen, and that the idea was that she would occasionally bake some cookies or, bake something, and, it would be something for people to come and enjoy when they came into the store. And then it just kind of went nuts after that. Baking once a week became baking cookies on Wednesday, casseroles on Wednesday and Thursday, pie day on Friday, cinnamon rolls and cookies and breads on Saturday. And it just kind of morphed into, something totally different.
So Patricia, what are we going to call that? Are we going to just call that, Patricia's perpetual boredness? Calendar is just going to keep going, going up.
Her impatience is going to be forever. I haven't figured out still what I'm going to do when I grow up.
So why keep adding to your load? Most people get rid of it, and you're just like, oh, well, I could always do something.
No, I don't. It's not really it didn't really happen like that. When I was homeschooling the kids, I was working at night 3 nights a week, waiting tables one night, and I did bookkeeping for a restaurant 2 nights. And then as the kids got older and older, and I realized we sent them all to public high school, I needed to figure out what I wanted to do. So we, ahead of time, started farming. We've always had this idea of how can we make this piece of land something that the 2 of us and our family can live on, and something that our children will want when we're gone. And so we thought of farming. One time, one thing about Ross is that if I say, I like this thing, I have to be super careful because he will get it. So if I say, oh, look at these cute, large black hogs, they're supposed to be really good meat. Then we have someone driving from Missouri bringing us two large black hogs or three. And so we started with 3 large black hogs. And then we decided that I was going to start, or we were both going to farm for beef and pork. And I was going to start selling beef and pork. And so our son was at Rice University at the time, and they had a farmer's market. I got in there and we started doing that. Then Ross started building the building, and that took like 3.5 years to build.
Right, for
And
good reason.
oh, yes. So a little complicated. And Ross, Ross had some help, but at the last year of the building, he had to completely stop taking work because there's no way he was ever going to finish it. And then all of our kids have helped us throughout. And then Marshall helped too. But then the building went up and we thought it would be very slow. And so I kept going to farmer's market. When we opened the store, we were closed Tuesdays, and I would be at a farmer's market at Rice University on Tuesday. And then Saturday, he would come in to the store, and I would go to downtown in River Oaks area, Houston, and go to a farmer's market. And then the store just started like taking off, and I had to quit the Tuesday market. And then he started making bagels once a month. That became a monster, and he couldn't do it by himself, really. And so I stopped going to the farmer's market one Saturday a month. And then I stopped going to farmer's markets altogether because Ross's Saturday baking day is just very big. Like this last Saturday, I made like 140 cinnamon rolls and, tons of bread and cookies. And so it's just sort of happening. I'm not willing it into existence.
So before we get too far from it, I do want to talk because people are coming, but then also how you designed the outside, which is really unique. Definitely stands out.
If you've ever looked at the wood shop, okay, the wood shop is 3 tiers, 3 arched tiers. And the wood shop was a celebration of the rolling hills of the Shiner Prairie. And so the basic idea behind Bluestem was that it was going to be a celebration of the valleys, because you can't have hills without valleys. And so, that's the general, like the swoops of the roof and the way that they intersect is to emphasize the valleys. The interesting thing about the building is that it is built and designed using the golden section.
I was going to ask.
Okay. Yeah. So the golden section is a ratio of 1 to 1.618. And so each room and all the arches, they're all in proportion to each other. So the small room is proportional to the next room, proportional to the main room. The size of the arches, the radius of the arches between the 3 different tiers are all proportional. And I use that proportion throughout the entire building. And so even in the main room where we have that balcony, it's set. The height of it is set using the golden section. Just everything in there is based off the golden ratio or the golden section. And so it was, that was part of the driving factor of the way it got laid out.
So at any point when you were building this thing, did you think, you know what, I'm making my life too hard and I should probably stop?
No. No,
I said it.
Yeah, Patricia said it. It's important to me that buildings beautify the natural landscape. Okay. And so, it's always, something I strive for is to beautify the landscape, in addition to the landscape, not something that clashes with it, necessarily. I had one architect that came up to me about the wood shop, and it was probably the nicest compliment that he could have given me. And he said, "It just looks like it belongs." And so, I mean, that was quite a compliment. As a designer, just to have something that looks like it belongs, on the rolling hills of the Shiner Prairie was pretty fantastic.
Right.
Yeah.
Has anyone ever come to you afterwards and been like, "Can you build that for me?"
We've had several people come in and ask about doing designs similar, but I don't think anybody realizes the amount of work that it takes to actually build something
I was
like
gonna
that.
say if you'd ever like done the bid out and like just looked at the sticker shock of what that actually would be.
Yeah, no, I mean it's just the number of hours that we spent. It was just it would be too much.
Right.
Yeah, I mean for most people. For us, it started out as a labor of love, and then ended up as just a labor. It's just ended up as I've got to get this done, and so that's what that last year was about. Was okay, we've taken a couple of years to get to this point. Let's get it complete.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I was thinking about the design, and it reminded me a lot of some of the designs that I've seen in Dutch and in Swedish architects.
Mm,
They like to run with that same ratio.
mm.
And I was like it kind of reminds me of some of the stuff that I would see out in Scandinavia. And so I guess you just need to get like, to start advertising like for a Scandinavian billionaire so they can, like, you can make a home here in Shiner and ship it all the way back over into
Yeah,
Europe.
yeah.
You talk about like how nothing just happens.
I started the first day we opened, I had made these pot pies. I had made about 40 pot pies, and I thought, well, this will last a month. I had made some chicken pot pies, a beef burgundy pie, and a pork and potato pie. And they were gone, I think, the first day we were open. And so I was surprised.
Did y'all do like a grand opening or?
We did kind of, I mean, we didn't do a lot of advertising. We just put it on Facebook one day and said, this is the day we're opening. But we did it maybe a week or two ahead of opening because we just didn't know if we were ever going to finish because it's an incredible amount of work. Yeah. And so we opened and we had all this, we sell Texas made goods. Everything in the store is made in Texas. And so we had very little merchandise. And then I had that freezer with those pot pies, and the pot pies just were gone. And so I made more pot pies, and then they were gone. And then I started making cookies. I get very bored if I have to repeat things over and over again. I don't like it. Yeah. And so I started making other things. Like I started making cookies, and then people were buying those. And I just came to the realization that it was a very nice compliment, but people liked what I cooked. And then I started watching what people were buying, and people are looking for a unique place to shop. We've kind of lost a lot of our shopping ability because when you go from one store to another store, it kind of looks the same, or you can kind of open your phone, pull it up on Amazon. But that's not really what we have in the store. We have all of these different contributors from all over the state of Texas, and it just started growing from there. And now it's amazing. It's hard for me to keep up. If I bake it, people buy it, and it really is. It's a compliment, and I appreciate it. And I learned to cook because we have 4 kids, and I needed to learn to cook, and people like the cooking, so I just keep cooking.
When we first started out, and Patricia, initially there was not a commercial bakery in the building in the design.
Right.
And so Patricia said, "Can you design in a kitchen?" And so I blew out one wall, so we could squeeze everything in there. And Patricia, came to me and I said, "So what are you going to be doing?" And she said, well, if I'm going to cook for people, I'm going to cook this certain way. And so, she said, we're going to use organic ingredients, as much as possible. We're going to, I'm going to, bake this, but I'm not going to bake it, all the time, 'cause she does get bored of doing the same thing over and over again. Me, I can make cinnamon rolls every Saturday, and I'm happy to make them, and it's fine with me. Patricia just isn't that way, but she made a decision early on that if she was going to bake food for other people, she was going to make the absolute best food she could.
She's going to do it right.
She was going to do it right, which meant more than just doing it right, from certain standpoints. It was the ingredients that we were going to use, were going to be just the best that we could find. And so that's what we've done. Everything from using our pork and beef for some of the dishes, to when we go and shop, she buys, just as much organic stuff as possible, and it really does make a difference. And so it's been really fantastic, and people appreciate, the effort that she goes through, to make meals for them and to create, treats for them, because you really can taste it. It really is amazing.
I'm sure there was a bit of growth there when it came to figuring out how to price that. Doing it right is expensive. And then making sure you have top ingredients, and then making sure that you actually price it according to both your time and also what what a product like that is, which is, in our world, that's a luxury product. And the look on your face says that there's been like this
There's a lot of arguments.
this has been okay. I want to hear them. Let's hear the arguments.
No, I mean, it's just I want people to be able to buy them, and I don't want it to be. And sometimes I do have something that's super expensive. Like I made a Bailey's cheesecake, but I didn't check the price of Bailey's before I made that cheesecake. And so I had to charge a lot more. I think I charged 40 or something per cheesecake, which is hard for me. I don't like to do that because I just don't like to. I want everyone to be able to buy something from the store. And so the way I figured it out is that there's a very big price range of casseroles, because I make a lot of casseroles. So you can get a casserole that's small, that's $12.50 and feeds 2 or 3 people, or you can get one that's $42. Well, not a small one. Small one's like 20 something, but I try to put a big price range so that everybody can shop there. But I don't want to leave people out from what I do. And so I just want everyone to be able to buy something. Years of probably struggling when we had kids, and I want everyone to be welcome in our store. I don't want it to feel like, I remember one time Ross was standing in line at a feed store, and somebody said, "Have you been to Bluestem?" And they didn't know Ross was standing behind them. And this one person said, "Well, I heard it was just really expensive." And I don't want it to be like that. And we do sell things that cost more when they're made in Texas. So a bar of soap there costs more than if it was made in China. It just does. Yeah. But it's just, just I just want everyone to be able to come to the store. I just want everyone who comes in, to be able to find something of value, something good, that's also something they can pay for.
It's difficult because post-COVID, and during our inflationary times, certain parts of our raw ingredients have increased
exponentially.
It's been
it's
incredible.
Like about 200% is what I've been seeing.
Some of it's 400%.
It was 400%, yeah.
And so, we look at that and we talk about how it's affecting, our price, but we haven't passed that on, completely, because, it just drives things up too quickly.
Right.
Price wise.
But that kind of leaves y'all with
less.
It leaves
Yeah.
y'all with y'all carrying the burden.
People are so amazing. They come in the store, they buy our food, which is not the biggest, believe it or not the biggest percentage of sales.
Really?
Yeah, it's the other things. We could make it so it was the biggest percentage of sales. We could hire somebody and we could do all those things. But you know, people come in and they buy a cinnamon roll, but they buy something else too. And so we have raised the prices where we've had to. With baked goods, we don't charge more for our labor than we did before. But we have raised prices to try and match at least most of the ingredient cost. But we don't, it's not like I pay myself more per hour. I just pay myself whatever. I figured out. I actually do figure out the cost of every cookie and the time it takes me to cook it. And that's how I come up with prices. So I haven't revisited them in a little while. If I did, I probably would raise the prices some, but we have raised prices. We just have. Some cookies are $2 more a dozen than they were 3 years ago.
Right.
That's a pretty big jump. So,
well, compared to some of the other things, that's not.
I know. We try to be very conscious of. Of course, we're not going to do this and not survive from the income. That's not wise. Right. And so trying to be a good business person and also be a good community person and just be a good person. So
y'all have gathered together quite a few vendors, whether you're talking about cheese and stuff that are more like kind of more farm to table, but you also have other artisans and stuff like that are doing stuff. Talk to me a little bit about how y'all found those individuals.
When we first opened, it was a lot of people I had met at the farmers markets. I spent over 10 years going to farmers markets in Houston every single week. Sometimes 3 times a week I went to farmers markets. So I got to see a very wide variety of people who were farmers and also people who made things like sauerkraut or who had honey. And so when we first opened, we had a lot of those people in the
connections.
Mm-hmm, a lot of, and we still do have a lot from those farmers markets that I met. And then I'm kind of obnoxious in any store I go to. I just start picking up everything to see where it's made. And if it's made in Texas, I take a picture of it if I like it. I think Nicole, our daughter, taught me what a hashtag was. So I would spend a lot of time on Instagram and I'd put in like hashtag made in Texas, which can take you down a very bad place. So you have to be careful. But but there's a lot.
Are you telling me you don't like the bikini pictures with the stamp that says made in Texas on the back?
Correct. I find those a little disturbing. But I found a lot of people that way. I found and then some people have just come in the store and ask if they can bring things. And it's a really neat, it's one of the neatest things about the store is that since it's all Texas people and most of them are small makers that might not have enough for a whole store for themselves, they bring their things into our store and they get, income from that without having to open their own store. And you end up with a relationship with most of them, not all of them. Some of them I get through wholesale, sites, but most of them are people I actually know their names, the actual name, not just of their business, but of the person who's doing it. And so we end up with really excellent people in the store.
So Patricia gets to a point where, people come in and say, can you tell me something about this product? And she can look at them and say, yes, this is the artist. This is the city they're from. This is what they do. This is how we got in contact with them. She has a history of a lot of the people, and some of them, like we have a quilt maker that's one of my cousins, and so it's relationships that have been either been developed or introduced, through the store, And it really is quite spectacular. The number of people that have come in and say, "Oh, a friend of a friend told me, that I might be able to come here, and can you look at my stuff and see if it's something that y'all want to sell?" And so that's what we do, and it's worked out really well.
So how many of those people do you turn away?
I do turn away very, very few people. If they bring me something that just it's very difficult for me to say no to people, but I'm getting better about it because sometimes there's a difference, I think, between, like, I like crochet and we do have crocheted blankets, but if someone brings me like a crocheted Kleenex cover, that's really nice if your aunt made it for you, but it's not sought after
Right.
when people
There's
go
no
shopping.
real market for that.
Right. So it's hard for me to tell people that, but I'm getting better at doing that. I don't say no a whole lot, but I do say no.
So I think when I start thinking about like kind of artisanal vendors, I start thinking the people that normally are in that type of work can be very unique personalities. Let's put it that way. You don't have to say names, but have y'all had any where y'all have just been like, okay, this is getting beyond eccentric. Like we're gonna have to change how we're doing stuff here.
There was this one person, not out this person, but who brought some photography in. And the photography, they were canvas, but no frames, and they weren't selling. And so Ross came in and said, if I frame all these, I wonder if they'll sell. So he took all of them down, but they were photographs. They weren't paintings. They weren't like original paintings. And I realized an original photograph somebody took, it's definitely their property. Get that. But when you're having it printed and put on canvas, then we took a little leeway and Ross framed them and they started selling. And Ross had picked all these he'd look at a painting, and if it had a lot of brown in it, he would take a wood that was really brown and would match it. And one of the ones he did was the Catholic school had torn down their old band hall, and Ross had gotten a hold of some of that wood, and a lot of it had been painted, but it looked real rustic, where paint had flecked off. If you go into our store bathroom, he used that wood all on the inside. It's really neat. So he thought, oh, maybe somebody local would like this picture of a longhorn in this frame with this paint. Well, they started selling really fast. Like it went from a year not selling and then 4 paintings or 4 photographs. And so that person was on consignment. So I wrote them a check and they were very happy. They wanted to bring out more. So they came and visited and were very upset about the frames, like really upset. So I understood. At first I was like, oh, I'm sorry, that we framed them and you don't like the frames that we used. I said, but the other one sold, and she kept going on about it. And then finally she said, this one needs to go in the trash. And Ross is my husband and he makes beautiful things. And she didn't like the one with the paint on it. And she just kept going on. And then I was like, you know what? I was very nice, but I was done. If you get to the point where, you can't, you can be like ugly about Ross, then I'm not gonna tolerate that. And you don't have to have your things in our store. And so it's difficult because I want to be very nice to people, but sometimes they can be like really possessive of their things. And I can tell sometimes, like if somebody can't let go of something, or they've made a quilt and they put it in a bag and they bring it in, and I take it out of the bag to look at it, and then they immediately put it back in the bag. I'm like, ruh-roh, it's going to be out on the bed and it's going to be touched and picked up and seen by a million people, not a million, but and so I can tell if they just can't let go of their own things. If it's too much, then I can't handle it.
And I would say artists have been our most difficult people to deal with. It's unusual to find an artist that is also a business person. And so, you might have someone come in that does incredible work, but they have no idea how to price it, and if something sells, are you going to get a replacement for it? Is it going to be, a replacement in a couple of weeks? Or are you going to have to wait 6 months for the next one to come? And so, some those relationships have been tough because, and also, you know, artists have a difficult time staying quote unquote in business. So we'll have a particular artist that's supplying something and we're going to be selling it and we're selling it. And then all of a sudden that artist like drops off the face of the earth and we'll never hear from them again, see them again. And so that's difficult. Yeah, it really is. It's difficult dealing with the artist. Patricia has a little harder time dealing with them. I have a little easier time dealing with them.
I was going to think.
Yeah, just because of my background. My sister who lives out in California is an artist, and so I kind of grew up, with knowing what those people were like, what their attitudes were, and I have some of the same attitudes myself,
Right.
And so it's a lot easier for me to say, no, we're not going to sell that, or no, we're not going to carry that in the store.
But I think that probably has a lot to do with you working as an architect.
Probably.
Because, I think very similar, in similar veins, when you were working with a customer for a product, even though you can put your artistic spin on things and how you think and everything else, at the end of the day, they're still the ones paying for it. So as painful as it is, it's like you can throw your heart out and then someone doodles all over it and then you have to ego swallowing. There's a lot of that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely.
So I think I could see you somehow having a better handle.
Well, artists are different, and they have and the beauty that they create. I can't do that. I don't have that ability. I'm much more practical. I can't even draw, and so somebody who's creating beauty is in a different realm than I am, and I'm a shortcut taker. I'm not like Ross. Ross will go to the 110% of everything he does. And I'm always trying to pull him, how about 75%? And he doesn't go for it. So it is better sometimes for him to deal with people who are they see the world differently. They don't see the world like I see it. And so Ross is better at it.
So I want to move over a little bit and I want to talk to y'all a little bit about something that was really interesting to me. And we kind of touched on it when I came out to y'all's farm to ask y'all to come on the podcast. No, they didn't come here voluntarily. And it was kind of surrounding y'all's social media because I think it's been it's kind of the flag that y'all put out every time that continually gets y'all business. And especially a lot of people poo off social media. They're like, well, you have to have millions of followers and X number of this. And y'all have kind of had a little bit of a different approach. Y'all have mainly stayed on Facebook and Instagram. Talk to me a little bit about that.
It started just on Facebook, I think. And then we added Instagram. And I don't know why it works, but it does. I post what we have. I post things that are in the store. A lot of times what I really like to do is post when Ross finishes like a project. I like to put that on there because, they're amazing. And people like to see them. And those are usually the things that get the most attention. But everything else, people respond very well to. And I know I even struggle with social media because it of course can have some terrible effects on people. But newspapers, people don't read anymore. I mean, some people do. But it isn't going to work for what I'm doing.
You tell me you can't put pies come on Saturday,
Yes.
Bluestem and the Gonzalez Inquirer, and it's not gonna work.
Exactly.
No, we've tried it a few times and it really doesn't make a difference. People like to see. I take pictures, put on what I have, and they give me a call or send me a text, and I hold things for them, and it works out. And that way, people don't have to come out to the store until they want to come out to the store, and they don't have to come looking to see if I have something. I try to post because people get disappointed if they come out and I have nothing. And so this way they know when I have something. And I, you know, I usually post when I sell out. And it's been amazing. It's been amazing. I put a picture on there. People ask questions. They come out. They get things. It's been amazing.
But she also does more than just posts about the store. You know, she posts about the farm, about the animals on the farm, about, you know, a couple of weeks ago, our daughter who teaches ag in Houston, you know, brought 20 of her ag kids. And so she does posts about, you know, about life on the farm, you know, which, you know, for a lot of people is very interesting.
It's very exotic.
I mean, it's, you know, just things that happen on the farm don't you know, always happen in the city.
Right.
And so, you know, it's you know, those, I think it's the combination of those posts. If it was always just about food or always just about what was for sale in the store, I think it would get rather boring. But she sprinkles our life, you know, in the story. And so I think it makes it a lot more interesting. And a lot of people just love seeing, you know, some of the posts that she does. You know, from one recently is we had this enormous tractor trailer rig come down the highway. And so Patricia made a reel of it, and it just blew up on the internet. You know, people watching this rig go by Bluestem. And so it's a little bit of everything. It's not just the food. It's not just the merchandise. You know, it's life out on 90A. That's what it is. Yeah. Life on the farm.
You have another podcast right there. Life on 90A.
It's been great. I love that I'm interested in people's lives and their stories and normal people, just living normal lives. And, you know, I try to be honest. Like, you know, a lot of people say, like, there was an article written about our farm, I don't know, 5-6 years ago in a magazine called Edible Houston. And it was from somebody who met me at the farmer's market. And they were doing a whole issue on women chefs, women farmers, on and on. So they came out and they did this one called Little House on the Shiner Prairie. And it was a big deal. It ended up, I think, getting the second most looked at article for the whole country for Edible Houston that year.
Wow.
And I was worried afterwards because everybody kept coming up and saying, I want your life. You know, I want your life. And I was like, no, you don't. You don't. They put some pictures of cows on there and they told you the good stuff, but it's
Country
not
life
easy.
is hard.
It's very hard. And I'm not a country girl. And even though I've been there, we're about to be in Shiner 30 years. And so I've been in the country for 30 years, but I'm still the most afraid of the, you know, animals, the most jittery when we have to load animals. I wasn't born out there, and I do get tired of dirt. And, you know, the house always has dirt in it, you know, from walking in and out, from being out in the pasture. And so I try to be honest with my posts and sometimes post the rougher things, but not that so rough that people get upset with me. You know, they don't want to hear about animals dying or,
Right.
you know, accidents happening. But I do try to be honest, and I think maybe people like that. I don't really know.
Yeah, it's tough to be like, there's mincemeat pies. And by the way, Billy got his leg chewed off in the hay baler yesterday.
Yes.
Picture side by side. Mincemeat pie. That's what was left of his leg.
I know it. I know it. Oh man, it's a crazy life. It's a crazy life.
Isn't it odd? There is like this huge shift of like all they want to do is they want to go out, buy a small 10-acre farm somewhere, live out on the country. There's a real romanticism to that way of living.
Romanticism is a very good word for it, because people come out with a very, they have a kind of a, what do you call it? A sky, idea in the sky of what living on a farm is going to be like, or what raising cattle is going to be like. And then they buy a couple of cows, and then they find out that it's not exactly what they had envisioned, or not exactly what they saw on the television
Are you telling
show.
me you're not laying down with your cows in the middle of the pasture, singing sweet lullabies to the cow as you're rocking its head side to side as a baby calf moves in the background, calling your name, Ross? Are you telling me that's not what's happening?
That's not what's happening. There are times where we get to touch noses with the cows and do fun stuff like that, but there are times where you wake up at 2:00 in the morning because you hear a cow bellowing, and you go, something's not
wrong.
right. Yeah.
Prolapsed uterus, or
just whatever. Lost a calf, or a calf crawled under a fence, went to the other side, can't get back across, and the cow is just sitting there, just bellowing away.
Cow swallowed barbed wire. I mean,
yeah. So it's not all fun and games. And people find that out very quickly. They really do.
But the grass is always greener.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, wouldn't it be nice to live in an apartment with no yard? Or wouldn't it be nice to have one of those houses where they just, instead of having a yard, they just put all rocks and just pebbles.
Just pebbles.
There's nothing to mow. I'm thinking that's pretty good.
There's no weeds. There's no thistle.
That's right.
There's no snakes always going through the grass.
That's right. Exactly. That's right. Like, I have this one little spot in the front yard in which I try to keep plants. I try really hard. And chickens, if they find a way in there, they eat all my plants. And then I try to block out the chickens. And then now we have piglets that get out of the fence, and then they come and eat my plants. And that's essentially my life. It's just trying to get the animals to stop eating the things they're not supposed to.
You should just have Ross make you like one of those raised platforms,
Yes.
kind of like you do for bears. About 16 feet in the air, suspended on 2 ropes with like 4 poles, skinned bark. And you just have a ladder that you can go up and like, this is Patricia's safety spot. This is her little hidey place.
Yes.
All you have to do is keep the crows away and you'll be fine. Well, put some chicken wire up there, you'll be fine.
Yes,
I'll put that on the list.
Put that on the list.
Oh, Patricia's hideout.
Patricia needs a hideout. Ross takes so much more naturally to the farm and to most things, but the farm especially. We'll load cattle to take to processing, and I will be just so stressed out from the whole loading process. And I'll be worried about the drive that we have to take and, making sure we're all safe. And Ross will be in the back, petting the animal, saying thank you to the animal. It's completely, we're very different. We're very different.
That's a good thing. And y'all have kind of made a concerted effort, not just for Aaron, but kind of for all your kids. This is a place where like the generations will kind of continue. So I'm kind of interesting because like succession planning is not the easiest thing to do. And yet y'all have kind of had that in mind for a while. So can you talk to me a little bit about that process and like what obstacles kind of come in y'all's way and how y'all have navigated?
I would say that it's always been forefront in our mind, just because the farm used to be, when my grandfather purchased the farm, it was 212 acres. And then when my father, his brother and his sister, when my grandfather passed away, they basically split the farm into thirds. And so each of them sold off, their portion, of the farm. And so we didn't want that to happen. We wanted the farm to stay, in the family. And so our efforts have been to improve the farm financially in such a way that it won't cost the kids anything to keep the farm. Okay. So that was always the driving factor with my dad, his brother, his sister, was that they were having to continuously put money into the farm, to keep it going. And so we're doing things to make it so that the farm is producing enough income, to where it's sustainable. And so, the pigs came in, to help that, with the farmers markets. It was one of the reasons why we developed, Bluestem, was, to just keep on adding value to the farm to where either the kids could ultimately rent those places out for income, or they could take them over themselves, for income, and keep the farm, in operation.
Mm-hmm. It's nearly impossible to make a 97-acre piece of land sustainable. It is very small, but it means something to our family. And Ross's mom is still living, and it means something to her. And it means something to our entire family. And so to make it so that it'll be hard for the kids to let go, not just because of the memories that they've had on the farm, but because it will hurt their pocketbooks too if they let it go. Maybe it'll help them for a little bit, but if the four of them share that piece of property, that they can get income from it, that would be incredible.
Well, I mean, right now you have, woodwork, blacksmith. All you need is leather and textile, and then you have like a whole ecosystem kind of going on.
Oh, we're working on it.
We have a pretty big project coming.
Yeah. So the next project is a barnuminium, which will be built, directly over the barn that my grandfather built. We'll basically tear it down to its bones and build an operating barn on the lower structure, on the lower part. It's a 2-story, building. The lower part of the building will remain a quote unquote working traditional barn. It's the upper part, which is going to be a gambrel style barn. Will have rooms in it to be rent out for barnuminium. And so that is one of the projects that's coming up. The next project that's coming up, and then
The last project.
no, and then
I love it. Just answer no.
Years ago, I had written a paper when I was on the Shiner Main Street Committee about developing an artist community, in the city of Shiner, using some of the old empty structures that were in the city, and that never came to fruition. But slowly, we've been turning the farm into that vision, and Aaron has picked up that yoke, I guess, and so there are visions to have, the next thing he'd like to add would be a glass blowing and pottery out there. We've for whatever reason, and it's kind of strange, we're right next to Yoakum, but we haven't been able to actually market or sell leather goods very well, for whatever reason. And I'm not sure why that is. There are projects even beyond that are coming down the pike that I don't want to quite discuss yet, because those are long-term projects. I'm 58 years old, and so for me to be looking down the road, I always try to look down the road 10 to 12 years and go, okay, what can I get done, in the next 10 to 12 years? Well, in 12 years, I'm going to be 70. And so I'm sitting there going, what construction projects can I be doing when I'm 70 years old? It's, and so it's really,
At the same
I'm
time that I'm saying, please, I'm be almost 70 at that point.
yeah. And so, I'm always the one that's looking, as far down the road as I can, planning these projects. I sit in my office, draw things up on AutoCAD, just looking at, okay, how can I do this? How can I do that? How can I build this? How can I build that? And it'll be different.
Just a whole multiplex.
Oh, it's going to be interesting. By the time it's all said and done, it's going to be interesting. Yep.
He likes to torture me because I just want it all to end, and I want to travel some. I want to do some things like that. But even this last Saturday, we're exhausted because we work. We stay up a little too late Friday, but we try to go to bed by 9 on Friday because we get up at 3 on Saturday, 3 or 4 in that range to go bake. And so then we're there till 5:30 p.m. Sometimes we get to take naps, but sometimes we don't. And so I'm a mess Saturday night. Like, I'm known to just ramble into sleep, saying who knows what. But as we were driving away, he's like, just 14 more years. He just tortures. He just tortures me. He thinks he's going to convince me to work till I'm 70. It's not going to work.
In my mind, I was imagining myself working till I was 72. And so it just, I don't know why, but it always seemed like just the magic number to me.
That was the right one.
Yeah. And so,
work makes him happy. Yeah. He's very happy when he works.
Yeah. So that's why I said, I keep on looking ahead as to, this next project. How many years is it going to take me to complete this project? Okay. Once that one's completed, how long is it going to take me to do the next one, and so on. And so I told the kids, I don't know, 6 or 8 months ago, I told them I've got 4 major projects left in me, and physically left in me. And so they know what I want to do, and we'll see if we I'll see how close I can get, and it's going to be interesting. And architecturally, they're going to be just really fantastic. I mean, they really are. They're just going to be interesting buildings, interesting to look at, and they're going to be a lot of fun.
So I have 2 questions off of this, right? Which is, number one, because y'all have been working together for so long, which is husband and wife duos tend to either be wonderful or they tend to be hell on earth. One of the two. What has been y'all's conflict resolution systems off of that? And then, because y'all are wanting to bring more of your kids into this whole project, what has been kind of like y'all's planning for conflict resolution and kind of the future, and how you maintain order and individuality at the same time?
Conflict resolution between the two of us, to be really honest, it's been wonderful. Like, when I was homeschooling, he was building cabinets.
Right.
And sometimes after the kids... On the property. He was there in and out all day long. And then sometimes the kids would be working. We'd take a day off of school to sand cabinets, stain cabinets, deliver cabinets. And we've always worked, all 6 of us, together extremely well. I don't know why, but we all certainly have lots of fights and arguments, but it has been wonderful. We've had to learn to work around certain things. Ross has already worked out an entire project in his head before he ever mentions the project. So that's hard for me because I need some time.
Heidi's laughing in the corner because she looked
Yes.
over at me and she's like, and we're both looking at each other because that's what I do. I literally will sit there and be quiet for days, maybe a couple months,
Maybe
and
years.
and I've worked out every detail, and I'll be like, it's time.
Yes.
And Heidi goes, well, what about? And I'm like, just
Yeah. It's already worked out. It's all worked out.
Stop.
Yeah. I need some time. Ross has learned to at least inform me of things he might be thinking about.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna write that down.
Yes.
And ways to avoid height.
Yes. Yes. So, that helps a lot. Men and women are very different and they think differently. And the faster we accept that and try to work around that, and the better it is. But as far as the kids go, we're trying to be like Aaron. We're bringing Aaron in on decisions. There are times when I say, no, I'm not going to do that. Aaron would like to have 4,000 pigs on the farm, and I would like to have 2. And so right now, I'm winning. We have we're reducing the size of our pig herd. But as we get older, I hope that we will be more welcoming to our kids' ideas and more. And we are, like, there are several of the kids, all the kids help. All the kids help. When we built Bluestem, Ross, our son, and Rachel, his wife, helped pick the name. Rachel designed the Bluestem logo, painted the front door with the logo. She and he have been absolutely integral in the ideas about the store and the Texas made part. And, I ask Ross's advice all of the time. Little Ross. Nicole helped build. Abby spent an entire summer off of college building that roof with Ross. They spent every day in the massive heat building that roof, and it took an entire summer. Aaron helped with the build, and they're very helpful people. We get along most of the time. We're pretty good. I think conflict resolution is probably the fact that we're pretty honest with our kids. If our kids can't sing and they say, I want to sing a solo, chances are there's going to be somebody that says, you can't sing. I love you, but don't do it. And so we're pretty good about when there was one of Ross's friends used to call it like the dinner shaming, and we're not mean, but there's honesty. There's a lot of honesty in the house, both toward the kids and toward the parents. The kids will tell us when we're wrong and I think we've all learned to do it nicely, but to understand everybody's strengths and weaknesses. The weaknesses we all pick on, but not in a mean way. So we seem to do all right for a family of 6 people. That doesn't mean we don't have fights. We have big ones, but most of the time we get along and we figure it out.
I think we work off of each other's strengths and weaknesses. We recognize that Ross has, very specific strengths, and we utilize those. Nicole is very different from Ross. Abby is very different from the other 2, and Aaron's totally different from the rest of them.
Y'all have 4 very unique children.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
They are each very much individual.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, one time we did that personality test, and there's 12 or 14 personalities, and we each have one. No one has a copy.
Has an overlap.
Yeah.
No one has it.
And so that they're 4 very different people. And, Patricia and I are, you mentioned conflict resolution. We do sit down and talk about, things. There are certain decisions that I'd leave 100% up to Patricia. She literally does run the store. She does the ordering. She does the inventory. She does all of that stuff. And so I really stay out of that realm of the merchandise, part of the store. And then, what she cooks is what she cooks because she wants to cook. I come in on Saturday. I always tell people, I'm a part-time employee. I just come in on Saturday and do my thing. Because really Patricia is responsible for the store. She really is. And so those types of decisions, sometimes she won't even, mention, how much she's spending on, like ordering jewelry from a certain vendor, because she knows that I would just blow my top. So
That's conflict resolution.
Yeah. So she
don't
just
say
don't say
anything.
anything.
just doesn't say anything. Yeah, it's
Just
like
do what you want.
Yeah. Yeah. And so
Marty, can we have that kind of relationship?
Yes.
I just do what I want and no one blows their top.
yeah, it's sometimes
I think it's just a matter of trust at this point.
yes, it
He
is.
trusts me.
Yeah.
And I trust him. Like, I know, like, if Ross is gonna do it the hard way, and it's gonna be the better way, and it's gonna turn out. So just let him do it. But I do put my foot down. They know that I have my limits to what I can handle. I just have limits to what a project is going to do to us, and how hard it is. And it's, I hope I'm not making it sound like it's all easy. It's not. I know the week before we opened Bluestem, Ross called me and just said, what am I doing? What have I done to our family? I've forced this building. I've spent 3.5 years, and probably no one's even going to come. And, and then I have to take the spot of saying it's going to be great, even though I might be thinking, I think you're crazy too, but it works out. And so it's not easy. Ross doesn't do things. Ross isn't a little thing person. He does big things, and that's just the way he is. His mind thinks big. Everything has vision and long-term thoughts, and I'm just like, right now I need that. Right now, take me to the beach, or I'm gonna, fall apart. That's how we are. So it works out. We lucked out. We met each other in high school, and it's been a good thing.
Been a good run.
So what are the challenges that what are the challenges y'all are currently facing?
Exhaustion. It is hard to stand for me. This is my challenges. Ross will have totally different challenges, but I am 56 years old, and I stand for 10 to 12 hours a day, and it's been good for me. The first year was almost impossible for me to do it. Standing takes a whole another set of muscles that took a while to kick in. So, not wearing myself completely out. But we sleep like babies, and we sleep at least 8 hours a night. Most people will say, when you're 45, you can kiss sleeping goodbye, but that's not how it is for us. We're very
It's like
tired.
work harder and you'll sleep better.
Yes, work hard, work really physically hard. So exhaustion is probably my number one. Just trying to keep up and not be exhausted all the time. So that's my challenge. And keeping Ross from building 30,000 things.
My challenge, to be honest with you, is a realization that I'm running out of time. I'm 58 years old. I have all these ideas in my mind of things that I want to do and accomplish. And I just see myself, running out of time. And I'm about to, in just a couple of weeks, have my next birthday. I'll be 59 years old. It was a realization that I start qualifying for the senior citizens discounts at certain things, and realizing that my grandfather passed away, in his 60s. My dad passed away in his 60s. I've tried to make better health decisions, but at the same time, I realized that I'm running out of time. And so that's a big challenge for me, just mentally for me, waking up in the morning saying to myself, what can I get done today? Putting my head down every night, thanking God for the work that I was able to get accomplished that day. We pray every night, and part of that prayer, is thank you for what I was able to do today, and get accomplished today. So when I get sick and stuff, it really ticks me off because it's days that I don't get to go out and do, stuff that I know needs to be done, or that I want to get done. As far as other challenges, a lot of it has to do with of course the current cost of things. It's hard to see our cost constantly increasing, because it just makes things farther and farther out of reach, and you have to wait longer and longer before you can get to the point where you can afford that next piece of equipment, that next piece of wood, everything like that. So that is a challenge, that we do have to think about. And so for me, that's the biggest thing.
Time and exhaustion.
We look at life very
Simple
differently.
problems.
Because Ross is exhausted too, but that's just not how he just keeps going. And, he focuses on something else.
Right.
And so that's what makes him who he is.
One side, basically, what you're working on is figuring out sustainability. The other one's like, I need to speed up because I'm running out of time. Like, screw sustainability, burn candles both ends. I got stuff to do.
Yes.
It's like we went to the service today, memorial service today, and I was talking to an old friend of ours, and we go on vacation, but when we go on vacation, we go 100% on vacation. I mean, we're there, we forget about everything that we do, but when we're on vacation, we work really hard to have fun. And so by the time we get back off of vacation, we're pretty exhausted.
I know y'all enjoy all this, but when it comes down to exhaustion and it comes down to fulfilling vision, why do you keep doing this?
I keep doing the farm because I want the farm to stay in the family. From an architectural standpoint, I like to add beauty, uh, to the world. Okay, and we could have thrown up a metal building, and slapped Bluestem on the side, and maybe it would be just as successful as it is today. But the number of people that have actually driven by Bluestem, and the wife or the husband says, stop, turn around, let's go check out that building. Because and for the people that stop and they just want to come and see the building, is just, it just blows me away. That people actually stop and because they saw something that they want to explore. For in just other aspects of it, but those are my two big driving factors, is the farm, the architecture, and then my family. I want to build something and have something for the kids that they can all enjoy together, whether it's them or their children, to have a place that they can call, that they can go, this is our home, and know that it's theirs, and that they can keep it and hold on to it, and that no one can take it away from them, is important to me. That they have that anchor in their lives where they just always know, this is our home, this is where we belong. And so that's what drives me.
It's a tough question. Part of the practical side is that we need an income. And this is my job. I'm lucky that I get to do a job that I like. I like to cook. One of the reasons I don't repeatedly cook the same things over and over every week is because that would make me crazy and it would rob me of the joy part of working. But the truth is, it's a job. I do it every day because I need to do it every day. And I think that that's the reason most people work, or at least a lot of people work, because it puts food on the table and they keep doing it because they have to feed their family. And that's part of why I do it. Part of the reason I do it is people are very nice and they say, thank you so much. I can't tell you how many people say, thank you for cooking for us. That is an amazing gift that I didn't realize I would get from people. But how many people say thank you? Thank you for cooking for me. Thank you for making these cookies. Thank you for doing this. That is, I don't have Ross's talents. And to be able to do something so simple and yet makes people happy, that's an amazing gift.
But I think you sell yourself short there.
There is a certain amount of, I'd tell Patricia, there is an honor in making food for people. There's responsibility, of course, keeping things clean, wiping things down, doing all those mechanical things. But there's truly an honor of someone trusting you to prepare their food for you and or for them, and them taking that home and feeding, themselves, their husband, their children. There is honor in that. And so, Patricia, to me, has a very, honorable job in the food that she prepares and the things that she makes. It's a really one of those warm, fuzzy feelings for me that people, come in and trust us, to give them nutritional, very, very well made, food. And like I said, there's just a lot of honor in that.
I love cooking, and that's mostly why I do it. I get the return when somebody buys something and they liked it. I'm getting something amazing from that. And I think it probably has to do with just the general personality of me, or even not all women, but most women do like to do things for other people. That's why women shop. It's not even half the time for themselves. They like to buy gifts for people. They like to give a gift to their teachers or their friends or whatever. They like to buy gifts for people. That's just the way they are. But I spent all those years doing what I thought was the most important thing in my whole life, which was raising a family. And to me, being able to just cook for people, if it makes them happy, that's just icing on the cake. Life has to be fun for me, or I can't do it.
So if people want to find out more about Bluestem, where do they go?
Everything we have is actually available online.
Oh, nice.
And we do ship. But that's at shinerbluestem.com. But everything's under Shiner Bluestem. There is a big company called Bluestem, which is why we don't have it as just bluestem.com, because there's some giant manufacturing business called Bluestem. So it's Shiner Bluestem. So Shiner Bluestem on Facebook, Shiner Bluestem on Instagram, and shinerbluestem.com on the internet.
Guys, thank you all so much for coming in.
Thanks for
Thank
inviting
you.
us. Thanks for inviting us.